Above your head, right now, something is moving faster than a rifle bullet. It's the size of a paint fleck, and it could destroy a machine worth hundreds of millions of dollars. In 2009, 2 satellites collided and created thousands of new bullets overnight. Scientists have a name for what happens next: Kessler Syndrome. So engineers built armor that destroys itself on purpose. Satellites that dodge threats they can barely see. And machines being designed for the first time to disappear when they die. This is the invisible war above Earth. Look up at the night sky. It looks empty, silent, peaceful. But right now, moving faster than a rifle bullet is a battlefield humanity built by accident. Space surveillance networks track more than 40,000 objects up there, and that's only the beginning. Scientists estimate over 1.2 million fragments larger than a centimeter, plus roughly 140 million smaller ones we simply cannot track. They are invisible. But invisible does not mean harmless. Up here, speed itself becomes a weapon, a scrap of metal that means nothing on Earth can become a missile in orbit, closing at tens of thousands of kilometers an hour. At that speed, even a centimeter-wide fragment carries enormous destructive energy. It hits with the force of an exploding hand grenade. Now picture something smaller. A fleck of paint, a shard of insulation, no warning, no shockwave, no time to dodge, just darkness, and then impact. The spacecraft has to survive something it never sees coming, which is where one of engineering's strangest ideas begins. The best shield is not built to stop the bullet. It is built to destroy it first. It is called the Whipple shield, and its logic sounds backwards. Do not build one giant wall, build several thin layers spaced apart. The outer layer dies first, shattering into an expanding cloud of fragments and vapor. That gap lets the cloud spread out, so the energy reaching the real pressure wall is scattered, not concentrated. This idea goes back to the 1940s, developed by astronomer Fred Whipple to guard against micrometeoroids. Decades later, the same principle became essential against something else, the debris humanity itself left behind. Here is the frightening part. The most dangerous debris is exactly what we cannot track. The smaller it gets, the harder it is to see. We can build a satellite worth hundreds of millions and still miss the one fragment that destroys it. Please hit like and subscribe. Your support keeps serious, deeply researched documentaries alive. And every collision raises a question more terrifying than the impact itself. What happens when one bullet creates 1,000 more? That question has a name: Kessler Syndrome, and it begins with a single collision. This debris is not random. It rides orbital highways, and low Earth orbit is getting crowded. Around 550 kilometers up, ESA modeling shows debris now roughly matches the number of active satellites. On February 10th, 2009, something happened above Siberia that changed how engineers think about orbital risk. An active American satellite, Iridium 33, and a dead Russian spacecraft, Kosmos 2251, collided. The spacecraft didn't simply dent each other, they shattered. The collision created a massive debris cloud, thousands of trackable fragments, plus countless smaller ones too small to count. Suddenly, the danger wasn't just one dead satellite. It was a population of new projectiles. A satellite had become a weapon against another satellite without anyone intending it. Imagine a highway where every crashed car becomes hundreds of pieces of high-speed metal, striking other cars. Now remove the atmosphere, the friction, the traffic lights, and wrap that highway around the entire Earth. That's the nightmare engineers are trying to prevent: Kessler Syndrome, a runaway increase in debris from collisions and fragmentation. It doesn't mean every collision leads to catastrophe, but in crowded orbits, rising debris raises collision odds, a serious long-term threat to how we use space. Not all debris comes from collisions. Some comes from something far more mundane: abandoned energy. Old spacecraft and rocket stages can still hold leftover fuel, pressurized systems, charged batteries, and decades after launch, those systems can turn dangerous. Temperature swings, radiation, material fatigue, pressure changes. A spacecraft that looks completely dead can still hold enough stored energy to tear itself apart. ESA has recorded hundreds of these fragmentation events: passivation, fuel vented, systems made safe, batteries discharged. It sounds simple, but doing it hundreds of kilometers up on a spacecraft that's old and hard to control is anything but. ESA has specifically researched how to safely discharge satellite batteries to prevent an explosion no one's there to see. A spacecraft's survival isn't only about life. A dead satellite can remain for decades, sometimes centuries. But what happens when the satellite is still alive and a collision warning arrives? Then it has to do something almost impossible: move. Picture a satellite, hundreds of kilometers above Earth. Then ground controllers spot it. Another object may pass dangerously close. The satellite has exactly one option: change its orbit. This is collision avoidance, some of the most remarkable precision engineering ever performed. Ground radar and optical systems constantly watch orbit, feeding measurements into models that predict where each object is headed. But engineers ask something much harder than, will they collide? They ask, how uncertain are we about where each object will actually be? Because orbital prediction is never perfect. A tiny error in position becomes a much bigger one over time. Atmospheric drag shifts low orbits. Solar activity changes air density. When the risk becomes unacceptable, controllers command a maneuver, a short thruster burn, a precisely calculated change in speed. But the timing has to be extraordinary. Move too much and you waste precious fuel. Move too little and the risk stays. Move at the wrong moment and you could make it worse. It's changing lanes on a highway, except the highway moves at kilometers per second. There are no lanes and the driver might be sitting thousands of kilometers away. This is where the next generation gets interesting. Future satellites are increasingly built with more autonomy, automated systems that continuously scan orbital data, flag threats, and help operators decide when to move. But there's a hidden limit. AI can't simply look at space and know where every bullet is. The hardest problem is still the data. The smartest algorithm on Earth can't dodge what it doesn't even know exists. Which brings us to one of the strangest ideas in orbital engineering: lasers. Not death rays. A powerful laser can vaporize a sliver of material off one side of a fragment, and that tiny recoil nudges its orbit. ESA is exploring lasers for tracking, and maybe someday, removal. But let's be honest, this is still a developing technology, not a giant beam currently clearing our skies. The engineering and the international rules around it are still being worked out. There's another approach. Instead of shooting debris, go get it. Robotic arms, nets, tethers, specialized chaser spacecraft. Removing one massive object can prevent an entire future family of fragments. Maybe the real solution isn't better armor, AI, or lasers. It's learning to leave space cleaner than we found it. For most of human history, we imagined space as infinite darkness, infinite room, infinite possibility. But orbital mechanics taught us something uncomfortable. Space around Earth isn't infinite in the way that actually matters. ESA tracks around 40,000 objects up there right now, and the real number of smaller debris is far larger still. New satellites launch, old ones fail, fragments collide. The orbital environment never stops changing. So the real engineering question isn't just, how do we protect one satellite? It's, how do we make the entire orbital environment sustainable for the next 100 years? First, design for survival. Whipple-style shielding doesn't try to stop a hypervelocity impact, as a tank stops a bullet. Breaking the projectile apart, spreading its energy, protecting what matters behind it. Second, design for avoidance, tracking networks watch, prediction systems calculate, operators command careful maneuvers, and increasingly, autonomous systems help make that call. Third, design for death. When a mission ends, fuel is depleted, batteries discharged, energy isolated, the spacecraft is passivated and moved toward a planned disposal orbit or re-entry. Fourth, design for removal. A single large dead satellite can become a future source of thousands of fragments. Remove it before that happens, and you might prevent an entire debris cloud that never gets the chance to exist. And fifth, design for the future. ESA's zero debris approach aims to sharply cut new debris from every future mission. Every fragment up there tells a story, a launch, a mission, a failure, a decision made decades ago. Humanity's greatest achievements are still circling the planet, right alongside our mistakes. The next great spacecraft may not be the one with the biggest telescope or the most powerful engine. It may simply be the machine that knows when to move, and finally knows how to disappear. Above us, the invisible shooting gallery is still there, millions of fragments still moving through the dark. But humanity is learning to fight back, not with one invention, but an entire ecosystem of engineering, shield, sense, predict, dodge, passivate, remove, prevent. The sky above us is becoming humanity's most valuable infrastructure. This is the invisible war above Earth, and it has already begun.